Spookiest facts that will keep you up at night. There's over 100 known serial killers that haven't been caught. The world's largest pyramid is not in Egypt, but in Mexico. 12% of people dream without any colour imagery. The human body contains enough fat to make 7 bars of soap.
This video will help you sleep at night.
How could I sound anything silly? I'm plastic. I don't even have a voice box. I had to borrow this one. Don't turn on the light.
Are you going to kill me?
No! I mean, yes, but not for a good long while yet. I don't want you to go to waste.
Here's some crazy history that you didn't learn in school. When the barcode was invented, it was very unpopular. There were tons of conspiracy theories about it, and it literally took 40 years for even half of all grocery stores to start using them. There was a man in England who discovered a buried Roman treasure worth over $6 million while using a metal detector to search for a lost hammer. Japan banned Christianity in the 16th to 17th centuries after welcoming missionaries from Portugal. They viewed Christianity as a threat to political control and social unity. A woman named Diana Armstrong is the world record holder for the longest fingernails at 42 feet, only because she decided to never trim her nails again after her daughter's passing because they used to enjoy manicures together. Thomas Jefferson briefly kept 2 grizzly bears at the White House after receiving them as a gift, but they were later declared too dangerous and then they were sent to a museum. The first commercially available microwave was over 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds, and would have cost more than $73,000 in 2025.
Slowest things in the world. Slowest helicopter Robinson R-22 102 miles per hour. Slowest plane Kolb Firefly 28 miles per hour. Slowest car Pill P50 28 miles per hour. Slowest roller coaster Kiddle Coaster 10 miles per hour. Slowest animal, the sloth, 1 miles per hour.
Whoever killed Spencer and Monique Tepe in their home while their children were inside is still out there, but police have now released a photo of a potential person of interest. Spencer and Monique Tepe were found shot to death in their home on December 30th after Spencer failed to show up to work. Their young children, just 1 and 4 years old, were found inside the home and were physically unharmed. No firearms were found in the house, and their deaths are being investigated as homicides. Now, a week later, police have released footage of a person of interest wearing a hooded jacket in an alley close to the Tepe's home around 2 to 5 a.m. on December 30th when the shootings were believed to have taken place. This person has not been named or identified, and no other suspects or persons of interest have been shared. And police are asking for the public's help in identifying this man or any other potential suspects. This is the only potential lead, but Spencer's brother-in-law is doubting the importance of this person, saying, quote, "I do think, it's a suspicious looking person there. It also very well could be somebody walking home drunk from a bar." He also noted how the Tepes were well loved in their community and had no enemies, but this attack seemed personal. It has been reported that Spencer was shot multiple times and that Monique was shot just once. They were shot in their home while their children were there, and what happened to them remains a mystery.
This story will make you absolutely sick to your stomach. So this is 49-year-old IT specialist Robert Chown, and he's from the town of Croydon, England. In 2022, American authorities launched an investigation into an online platform called The Sanctuary. It was basically a heaven for pedophiles, an online messaging forum where people shared images and videos depicting CSAM. And through investigating, investigators found that Robert here was one of the key players on this website. Upon joining this group in 2019, one of Robert's first messages read, "Preferences, girls 8 to 11. And according to a press release, quote, he went on to share hundreds of abuse images in the forum that he'd captured over the years of sexually exploiting children online. He also posted an indecent photo, that's what they call it, of a 12-year-old girl that he himself had captured. But Robert wasn't just a pedophile, he was actually masquerading as a teenage boy online to try and groom children. According to this newspaper article, quote, online he masqueraded as a teenage boy to target thousands of children across the world. Girls and boys as young as 6 years old were groomed by Chown to live stream sexual acts at his instruction, which he would capture and share with other pedophiles on the dark web. So he was grooming these kids into doing sexual things for him on camera, sending him videos and photos of that, and then he was sharing it with thousands of other pedophiles as soon as he received it. Now, Chown was arrested at his home in September of 2023, and police seized 2 mobile phones. And on those phones, they found more than 2,000 indecent images and videos depicting children being abused. As this newspaper article states, they also discovered 204 entries on Google Translate of sexual instructions translated from English into Russian and Polish. So this guy was literally virtually abusing children all across the world and sharing images and videos of. In fact, in total, Chown posted 11,966 times on the website under the username Fred Has 5 Toes. And it's known that he targeted children in Australia, the US, Denmark, the Netherlands, Russia, and Poland. However, at the end of the day, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison, with 7 of those years to be served on license. That's the thing in the UK. Which means that in reality, he was only sentenced to 18 years in prison for the abuse, whether it's virtual or in person, of over 2,000 children, almost 12,000 posts on a pedophile website, assumedly sharing CSAM materials. I mean, he was charged with 41 different things. So this is kind of why I make these videos, because we see a lot of these people slip through the cracks in the justice system, and then they're just shipped back out into society. I don't think penalties are nearly strong enough here in America or overseas for people like this. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated in case anything else happens in this story.
Imagine being attacked by a shark and it ends up saving your life. That's what happened in 2015 to Eugene Finney when he was on holiday in Huntington Beach, California. He went for a swim and felt something massive slam into his back. He managed to get out of the water with only cuts and bruises, but he felt like he had whiplash. Eventually, he realized what had hit him was a great white shark and that he needed to go to the hospital. When doctors checked him out, they found a cancerous tumor early enough that it could be removed.
This 14-year-old boy raped a 91-year-old woman and was given 15 years in prison. So this guy's name is Jesse Stone. He was 14 years old when he committed the crime. And in Florida on June 9th, 2024, a 91-year-old woman woke up at midnight in her home and found that someone had broken in. The intruder then began to beat and sexually assault the 91-year-old and eventually afterwards fled the scene. And in November of that year, after months of investigating, investigators finally made an arrest. And the person they arrested ended up being a local 14-year-old boy named Jesse Stone. Now, according to authorities and the investigation, Jesse actually knew the 91-year-old woman, and he stopped by her house to talk to her frequently. I don't know if they were neighbors or something like that, but he was known to the victim. And then for some reason, on the night of the assault, Jesse snapped. He broke into her home around midnight, and yes, like I said before, violently beat and raped the victim. Now, at the end of the day, Jesse was sentenced to 25 years in prison. I'm assuming they gave him a lighter sentence because he was a juvenile at the time. He was sentenced when he was 15. But he also received 30 years of sex offender probation, must register as a sex offender, and had to enroll in anger management classes. Now, in my opinion, I feel that someone like this should receive a much longer sentence, and I just don't think 25 years is enough. We still also don't know exactly what drove Jesse to do this. He claimed that he was addicted to pornography, that he had a difficult childhood and struggled from ADHD and depression, but none of those things excuse his actions. And this is just another reminder that people like this exist everywhere. And in about 24 or so years, this guy will be back out on the street.
This girl ripped out her own eyes and crushed them in her hands. In 2018, Kaylee Mutthart, a 20-year-old woman from South Carolina, suffered a severe drug-induced psychotic episode after being awake for nearly 48 hours while using methamphetamine. During the episode, she experienced intense hallucinations and religious delusions, believing she had to blind herself to save others and the world. In that state, Kaylee forcibly removed her own eyes and crushed them with her hands. She was later found injured by a nearby pastor who called for emergency help, but doctors were unable to save her vision. Kaylee Mutthart survived and later spoke publicly about the incident, describing it as a result of extreme substance abuse and untreated mental health issues. Her case has since been cited as a stark and tragic example of how prolonged drug use can trigger catastrophic psychosis, with permanent consequences. This incident is absolutely insane, and I can't imagine somebody ripping out their own eyes. Thankfully, Kaylee survived, but sadly, she would never be able to see again.
Here's some life hacks to save your life. If you're ever driving and you feel like somebody is following you, don't try to lose them or let them follow you home. Just go to the nearest fire department or police station if you're really desperate. If you ever get stabbed by anything, don't pull it out. This is my biggest gripe with movies. You pull it out, you're gonna bleed faster. If somebody's ever rushing you to make a decision, that is a red flag. Oh no, the brakes on your car stopped working and you have to crash into something. Don't aim for the natural objects like a tree, okay? Aim for the man-made objects, I promise. If you're ever at a party or an event and you get a weird feeling, trust your gut and just leave. More than likely, your subconscious brain is picking up on signals and pattern recognition that your conscious brain just hasn't picked up onto yet. Make sure you practice breath work. That way, when you're in a high-stress situation, you can still remember to breathe. It'll calm you down, making it easier to actually think. If something horrible happens and you're lost somewhere, but your phone still works, immediately change your voicemail to the exact location and what happened, and that way when people call you, they hear it and come find you. Never just sit in the parking lot in your car on your phone, okay? So many people get kidnapped. Don't do it. Drive away. Go home. Don't ever just say, somebody call 911. Everybody's going to end up just looking around at each other, not doing anything. You have to specifically point somebody out and be like, you! Call 911! I know it might hurt your ego a little bit, but you don't have to just stand there and get punched in the face and try to punch them back. You can literally just run away. But if somebody's trying to kill you, kill them first.
The boy who disappeared after explaining this.
Imagine that this folder is a dimensional plane. Now, assuming that it is no height and no depth, what would this mean? It would mean that it's a one-dimensional world. So if, hypothetically, an organism was living inside of it, it would only be able to move in a linear path forward and backwards in a straight line. Now, if we go to the second dimension, we have two dimensions. We have width and we have length. So hypothetically, if an organism lived inside of here, then it would be able to move up, down, left, right, and anywhere else in between. And a two-dimensional world is comprised of an infinite series of one-dimensional worlds stacked upon each other. Just as our three-dimensional world, which has depth and length and height, is comprised of an infinite series of two-dimensional worlds. So now that I have stacked many folders upon each other, we have three dimensions. We have depth, we have length, and we have width. Now what happens if you keep going on from here on out? We would have a four-dimensional world.
This flight flipped upside down and crashed. In 2000, Alaska Airlines Flight 261 took off from Mexico bound for San Francisco. Midway through the flight, the crew began experiencing a terrifying problem. The aircraft's horizontal stabilizer suddenly jammed, forcing the nose of the plane sharply downward. Inside the cockpit, pilots Captain Ted Thompson and First Officer Bill Tansky fought desperately to regain control, manually cranking the stabilizer while communicating calmly with air traffic control, even as the plane repeatedly dove towards the ocean. After temporarily stabilizing the aircraft, the crew attempted a final repair, but the stabilizer failed completely. The flight then flipped upside down and plunged into the Pacific Ocean, killing all 88 people on board. The investigation revealed the cause was excessive wear on a critical jack screw, the result of inadequate lubrication and extended maintenance. Investigators concluded the crash was completely preventable. Flight 261 is remembered not only for the mechanical failure that doomed it, but for the haunting composure of a crew who knew they were losing the fight. I can't imagine being on this flight and how the passengers were feeling. May everybody rest in peace.
Yo, what's up? These are scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know, part 8. In 1976, there was a Sesame Street episode that was literally taken off the air because it scared children so bad that it made them scream in horror and have nightmares the night after. You were actually more likely to find a body under your bed rather than in your trash can outside. How terrifying is that? Yeah, we already think about people or monsters being under our bed, but what about an actual dead body? Ugh. It is said that people who died with depression or if they committed suicide are said to have the most vengeful spirits and are most likely to come after you and cause harm. On average, a high schooler now has just as much or even more anxiety than a psychiatric patient from the 60s. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm one of them. And lastly, it is very much possible for trees to grow inside of your lungs. That's right, I said trees.
A man took his girlfriend climbing and he left her on the mountain to die. This is Thomas Plomberger. He's a 39-year-old experienced climber, and earlier this year, he wanted to take his girlfriend Kristen on a climb with him. Now, this was a very tough climb. It was one of the tallest peaks in Austria, but around 8:50 p.m., the night of their climb, they both get stranded. But then, 2 hours later, a police helicopter flies by, and Thomas doesn't do anything to signal to that police helicopter, and he doesn't call a distress signal in. Mind you, it's -4 degrees Fahrenheit. They're 12,000 feet up this mountain, and his girlfriend is starting to get hypothermia. The reports are saying that Thomas didn't make a distress signal until 1:35 a.m., then he put his phone on silent and walked down the mountain without his girlfriend. Unfortunately, Kirsten did pass away, and now he's being charged with negligent homicide. Now, I know a lot of people are shocked by this case. I've seen a lot of people online talking about it, but this type of thing happens so much on Mount Everest. We just did a whole deep dive on the Heart Starts Pounding podcast on the bodies that have been left behind on Mount Everest, because there's still like 200 bodies on the mountain. And I cannot tell you how many of them are there because their spouse walked away from them. I mean, one of the stories we covered in the episode was this woman, Frances, whose last words were literally, "Don't leave me," because she watched as her husband was walking back down the mountain. The episode is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, but I learned so much about the climbing community and how dangerous these climbs are.
She survived a vicious attack that went viral and bravely spoke out, but had no idea she wouldn't survive what came next. It was April 2019 in Dallas, Texas. Malaysia Booker was a stunning 22-year-old transgender woman. She was funny, full of life, really the kind of girl that you would want around if you were feeling down. She would definitely cheer you up. But on the 12th of the month, she was just minding her own business, trying to park in an apartment car park. She accidentally bumped into somebody else's car. I don't know if anybody else has had this happen before. I certainly have. I reversed into my neighbor's car, and honestly, your stomach just drops. It's so horrible. You feel bad enough as it is, without a group of men coming up to you, surrounding you, and attacking you. What kind of men do this? Honestly, it's so gross to me. A big crowd gathered round to watch these men just attacking this woman. And instead of going to get help, they filmed it. What is wrong with people? She was beaten so viciously, she had a concussion and a broken wrist. And this video started going viral on social media, and some sick people were kind of sharing it like, look, this is so funny, but others were obviously outraged. And when she finally recovered, she did bravely speak out about hate crimes and the fact that these men were actually using transphobic slurs. She was hoping that speaking out and bravely sharing her story would make a change. In fact, what was to come was much, much worse. Edward Thomas, the kind of ringleader, the man who attacked her, was charged with aggravated assault, but later only convicted of the lesser charge of misdemeanor assault and given just 300 days in prison. More days in prison than brain cells. And when she just finally managed to recover, tragedy struck. On the 18th of May, police were called to an incident on Valley Glen Drive at around 6:40 a.m. When they got there, they couldn't believe their eyes. He was just lying face down in the middle of the street, and she was very clearly deceased. Now, at first they were like, oh my god, we need to find out who this is so her family can be told and we can get on with this investigation, but she had no ID on her at all. She had to be transported away from the scene, and a medical examiner had to identify her the following day. It was Malaysia. Now, obviously, police knew one thing for sure: a dangerous murderer was on the loose. Her cause of death was a gunshot wound, and Malaysia had been spotted getting into a particular car, which was key to the investigation. The car was a light-coloured Lincoln. Now, this matched the car of local man Kendrell Lyles. He was actually the suspect already in other shootings. Yes, shootings plural. When they searched his phone, they found that the data showed it had pinged in the exact same location that Malaysia was found dead. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he was also found to have Malaysia's phone on him. Now, he was arrested and charged with her murder, as well as the 2 other killings. These were Letitia Grant and Kenneth Chichoki, and these were unrelated. He ended up pleading guilty to Malaysia's murder, and although it's never been confirmed his actual motive, people strongly believe there was a transphobia element to it. He was given 48 years in prison, and I really hope Malaysia didn't die in vain. We need to keep talking about the very real violence that trans people are facing. Silence protects perpetrators, not victims.
She started sleeping with her son to try to turn him straight. This is Barbara Daly Bakelin. She was born in Cambridge in 1921. She went on to be a model, and while she's kind of wrapped up in this world with auditions and stuff, she meets a man named Brooks Bakelin. Move quick, they start sleeping together, then get married very fast. Barbara gets pregnant, but at the same time, they're still sleeping with other people, so it's a very weird relationship. Yeah, though, Barbara gets pregnant, and then they have a kid named Anthony. Since Barbara was sleeping with other people, I'm not really sure if the kid was Brooks or not. Time later, Brooks divorces Barbara for a girl 15 years younger than her, and this sends Barbara off the deep end, to say the least. So at around 20 years old, Anthony gets in a relationship with a guy, and Barbara doesn't like this, so she decides she's going to fix Anthony, and she starts hiring these girls to sleep with him, but that doesn't work, so she says she's just going to fix him herself, and she starts sleeping with Anthony. In his young adulthood, Anthony started showing signs of schizophrenia with paranoid and erratic behavior. He was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia, but his father initially refused treatment by psychiatrists because he called that treatment immoral. In July of 1972, Anthony tries to kill his mom by pushing her into traffic. She fights him off, and she is saved this time. After this, Anthony was 26 years old. He was sent to psychiatrists, and that psychiatrist warned Barbara that Anthony was capable of murder. She didn't listen, and 2 weeks later, on November 17th, she was stabbed in the heart by Anthony in the kitchen. She was 51 years old. She died almost instantly. After this, he went to live with his 87-year-old grandma. I don't really know who thought this was a great idea, but just 6 days after moving in, he stabs her 8 times and breaks several bones and goes to jail, and not long after, he puts a plastic bag over his head and takes his own life. This whole case is pretty scary.
One Direction's Liam Payne is reportedly dead after falling off a 3-story balcony. When the news first broke, a lot of people, including myself, thought that this was a hoax. But TMZ has since published images showing portions of his body, and the tattoos are matching up. Several witnesses also saw Liam fall from his 3rd-story balcony. We still don't know if this was intentional or an accident. This is where Liam's body reportedly landed. We know the incident happened shortly after 5 p.m. Witnesses say that Liam was acting erratic in the hotel lobby earlier. He apparently smashed his laptop and had to be carried back to his room. We still don't know if someone was in the room with him or if he was completely alone. I'm assuming Liam was still in Argentina because of Neill Horan's concert earlier this month, where he reunited with all of the One Direction members. In the summer of 2021, Liam revealed his struggles with alcohol and prescription drugs in the past, and said that at that time he had thoughts of taking his own life. There is also speculation that this outburst had to do with his ex-fiancée. Her attorney has been trying to send him a cease and desist to stop him from contacting her. All in all, we really don't know if this was an accident or intentional or what caused it. If there's any more breaking news or updates, I will leave a comment below. A Kentucky woman is accused of dismembering and cooking her own mother, and to make things even more strange, she was actually living under an alias before that and trying to make it big in Hollywood. This is 32-year-old Tori Lena Mae Fields, aka Naomi Navari. Yes, this is apparently the same person. In high school, Tori was a track and field athlete, a member of FCCLA, and voted biggest flirt. In her senior year, she wrote that she wanted to become a famous singer and shock the world. She has definitely succeeded in shocking the world because of what she did to her mother, Trudy Fields. After graduating in 2011, she attended Morehead State University. A classmate recalled her as being outgoing, energetic, and funny. In 2015, she enrolled at the University of Kentucky but never finished her degree. And around this time, she moved to Hollywood to pursue a career in modeling, acting, and singing, and started going by the name Naomi Navari and always wearing this red wig. So how do we actually know this is her? Not only has family and friends confirmed that this is Tori Fields, but a murder indictment cites this Instagram account. Tori is also following her personal account and states in her personal account bio that her acting/modeling name is Naomi Navari. In 2019, she starred in a low-budget sci-fi film called The Desert Project about time travel, as well as a romance called A Dance Story. Tori's last post was made in September of 2022, so we don't really know what happened in her life the past 2 years. But according to her family, a couple months ago, Tori was involved in a really bad motorcycle accident and sustained a brain injury. She was apparently wandering California, didn't know her name or where she was supposed to be. That's when her mother, Trudy, stepped in to help. In August of this year, Tori moved back to Mount Olivet, Kentucky, where her mother was trying to help her get back on her feet and sort out any issues she was having, but something obviously went horribly wrong. On October 8th, a maintenance man hired by Trudy went to the property. He said Tori was, quote, casting spells on him and being very confrontational, and this is the last time Trudy was seen alive. The following day, he came back to find her remains in the backyard. Authorities believe she fatally shot and stabbed her mother, Trudy. After dismembering her body, she placed her mother's head, hands, feet, and forearms in a cooking pot in the oven and heated it up until the remains were charred. It took 11 hours for police to get Tori out of the house. They deployed gas and used a robot to converse with her. And when Tori emerged, she was apparently covered in blood from head to toe. Tori Fields is charged with the murder of her mother and their dog. Her bond is set at $1.5 million. A preliminary hearing is set for October 23rd.
When a human foot washed up on shore, they knew he was no longer missing. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Antonio Neill. Viewer discretion is advised. This case will take us to Everett, which is located in Washington. That is where 22-year-old Antonio Neill lived with his family. It was December 12th, 2016. Antonio had said goodbye to his mother because he was going to be going to a friend's house, and then he would be home either later that night or the next day. He never got home. And so by the following day, when his mother realized she hasn't heard from him, she hasn't seen him, she's calling around, but no one's saying they know where he is. I guess he went to like some kind of house party or something located on the 2400 block of Cedar Street in Everett. And according to witnesses, Antonio seems to have gotten into some kind of fight or physical altercation with another man there. Who that man is, I'm not sure. I'm sure the police probably do, but I don't know his name. But then it seems like a short time after that, he just disappeared. Antonio drove a 2000 Volkswagen Jetta, which was then later found by police. I guess that was found in the area of Linwood, which it looks like, this based on the map, because I'm obviously not from there, looks like it's about 14 or 15 miles away from Everett. But there were no signs of any kind of foul play or anything in the car. And sadly, by all accounts, his case just goes cold. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows what happened. I have to assume they've done the cell phone pings, because this was 2016. I just don't know if they've gotten anything from it. There really isn't a lot published about this case. And then something tragic happens in 2019. And it was actually New Year's Day. A couple was just taking a leisurely walk along this river here. I guess this is on Jetty Island. When, at first, they saw a shoe. When they looked closer, they realized this was more than just a shoe. There was still a human foot inside of it. And so obviously, the police are contacted. When Antonio's mom sees a photo of the shoe, she immediately knows that that's her son. The sock was still on the foot, and when she saw the sock, she's like, I saw him put those socks on that day. And then they would confirm that the foot inside was, in fact, Antonio's. It was obviously quite a shock, especially considering that's the only part that was found. Nothing else was found, just the foot. They said there were no obvious signs of trauma, but obviously this is a severed foot. They have no idea how it got that way. They can't tell from the foot if this was a murder or an accident or what. However, police are still considering this case to be, at the very least, a suspicious death. They haven't said like, oh yeah, he just accidentally fell into the water and somehow this happened. You know, I think there is that belief in the back of everyone's minds that he was killed and possibly just based on the foot, possibly dismembered and thrown into the water, which is pretty wild that it's still washed up on shore like almost 2 years later. So I guess this is off of the Snohomish River, which is a huge river. I have to assume they've searched parts of it, but it's a very big body of water. And with this being years later, you know, there's no telling if the rest of the body will be there or not. But as of this point, no other body parts have washed up. No other body parts have been found. But somebody somewhere out there does know the truth about what happened to him. Was it the person he got into a fight with? Who is that person? Have they ruled that person out? I don't know. Somebody knows. Somebody knows the answers to this, and perhaps that someone is you. If you have any information on what may have happened to Antonio Neill, you are asked to please call 425-388-3845. You can also make anonymous tips to 1-800-222-8477.
Imagine hearing glass shatter and then watching a body fall from the 17th floor. I don't think anyone expected what police found next. It was the middle of summer 2011 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Josh Hillbilling was 23 years old. Now, he'd been married to his wife Amber for around a year, and the pair lived in a high-rise building together. Amber was actually only 19 years old, but she was sure she wanted to build a life together with Josh. Josh was described as charming, intelligent, funny, the exact kind of guy that Amber wanted to be with. Amber said they complemented each other just so well. They were head over heels in love. And then when Amber fell pregnant, to the outside world, everyone was like, oh my god, these guys have got it absolutely perfect. But if there's one thing you guys know from my videos, it's that appearances can be deceiving. Now, the reason the pair had moved to Tulsa in the first place was Josh got kicked out of the Air Force due to substances. There were rumors that he was selling them, taking them, so he just got booted out. It was also obviously not the kind of thing that the couple wanted to shout from the rooftops. They wanted to paper over the cracks and portray this ideal lifestyle, but it was causing a lot of arguments. So when the locals started hearing news that this body had fallen from this high-rise building, everybody was stunned and nobody could make sense of it. Police raced to the scene expecting the worst. I mean, people don't usually survive falling from the 17th floor. When they got to the building, it kind of took them a couple of minutes to actually process what they were seeing. As they approached the bottom of the building, it kind of looked like crumpled up clothes on the floor. It wasn't just clothes though, it was Josh. And stood over him was Amber, heavily pregnant, admitting to pushing him. Amber's nan had also raced over to the scene because she'd got a call off Amber straight away explaining what had happened. And the nan couldn't really even process what she was being told. She was like, "What do you mean Josh is dead?" Amber and the nan were driven to the police station and put in a room. Now, I don't know about you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I personally, if I'm in a police station in a room, I'm going to presume it's being recorded. For some reason, Amber just didn't seem to realise that cameras would be rolling. She started bawling her eyes out, telling her nan everything, every detail. She said they were having this big fight, she pushed him against the wall, he fell out of the building, it was crazy. This was all over the news and everybody was arguing. It seemed like everybody picked one side or another. Either they thought that Amber was this evil abuser and had murdered her husband on purpose, or they thought Josh was the abuser and she was acting in self-defense. So the case went to trial and some disturbing details came out. No one was expecting anyone to have proof that Amber actually had attacked Josh before. She'd smacked him over the head with a lamp and he'd had to go to hospital and have stitches. In fact, he'd even filed a protective order against her, but then I don't think they ended up finalizing it because they basically made up. Her family was defending her though, saying that basically every single couple at one point have been rough with each other. I don't know what you guys think about that. I'd be inclined to disagree. I don't think everybody pushes and shoves each other as a given. Now, she was eventually found guilty of second-degree murder, but that's not where the story ends. Amber eventually gave birth to the baby boy, and the family took over custody because at this point she was in a medium secure prison. And Amber ended up finding love again. She got together with a woman in prison called Patricia, and the pair had a long, happy relationship. But at the end of October 2016, tragically for her infant child, Amber was found dead in her prison cell. The coroner ruled the death as a self-unaliving, leaving the baby boy an orphan.